everybody. Welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers, Microsoft MVP, CEO at IW Mentor, and I have Joelle Jobson here on audio.
Hello.
And Joelle did Power Hour presentation last week when I was out at MVP Summit. One of these days we're going to get the co-broadcasting screens next to each other thing figured out correctly. So we don't have to just do it one at a time. We got it figured out a couple of times, and then we ended up crashing and having all kinds of issues. So, yay, technology. Okay, so if you're joining for the first time, the fun part about having this as a live show is that we are chatting in Slack. We have a whole conversation going on during Power Hour and asking questions and just kind of chatting about what we're doing today. So welcome. Come say hi in Slack. And let's see. Joelle, can you stick a link to the YouTube video in Slack for me?
Sure.
So YouTube just a few minutes ago, I think, or just sometime this morning, changed their whole UI. So SharePoint is not the Office 365, and SharePoint is not the only one that is like yanking it out from under you and completely changing stuff just randomly. it's all the technologies, YouTube also. So it's just all changing so fast. So I went to, do something in YouTube or, look at this live event and tweak it, and everything was completely rearranged all of a sudden. Like literally it wasn't like that earlier this morning, and now it was. Fun times. All right, so it's good to have, thanks Joelle, put the link there in the Power Hour channel in Slack. It's iwmentor.slack.com, and the description of this YouTube video has a link to fill out a form to join if you're joining for the first time. So again, hello everybody. I can't wait I need to go watch the video you did last week, Joelle, about something cool you figured out about filling out a site request, right?
Yeah, just showing a potential option for approving a hub site join request while we wait for that to be built in.
Nice. Yeah, see, it's so funny because a lot of these things that we figure out, you kind of think, is this really what we have to do for this to work? This doesn't seem right. And hopefully they'll fix it and this won't have to be the solution. So we were kind of pondering, like, do you even bother blogging about this? But that's the thing. Everything we do in SharePoint and PowerApps and Flow, period, is constantly changing. So you may as well just blog about it. And it's funny, people, when people watch old YouTube videos and read old blog posts, nowadays, really, you have to pay attention to the date on that thing because you have to take it with a grain of salt if you see something that's like a year older, a year or more older, that you're reading about how to do something. So that goes for people reading my blog, and especially anything in Office 365, and reading just any blog. So now every time I'm kind of like Googling, troubleshooting a problem, that's the first thing I look for is the date when they wrote about how to do that. So, yeah. All right. So I will today, now this one's interesting because web part connections do exist now. So I'll put the link in here. I'll put the link in the chat window, and it's also on my blog, wonderlaura.com. I have in the navigation up at the top, there is a link that's Power Hour schedule. So I'll put the links to the upcoming Power Hours and the descriptions, and then like this little reference link that I'm about to send you. I'll put it in the general channel. The reference link is there too. So it's just a Microsoft support link on this new way of doing web part connections. Now, this is totally different than the way we did web part connections in classic mode. So sort of in this in-between phase between classic pages kind of going out of style and now modern web part connections finally exist. my solution to things that I used to do with web part connections and having these dynamic dashboards and on SharePoint pages has been, I've just been creating solutions like that in PowerApps instead. So like with galleries and forms and multiple galleries and galleries inside of galleries, and just sky's the limit. So that's been the solution I've been using in between. So the web part connections that we have now aren't really the same as what we used to have. They don't give a lot of the same capabilities yet. I'm not sure what the plans are for how advanced those are going to get, if they're going to get to be more like what we had. Also, your web part connections they're still rolling out. So in your tenant, you may or may not have them. I've got like 3 different tenants. One tenant, it kind of has a weird web part connection that doesn't work. And then it's got this page environment thing that doesn't work. And then in one tenant, it does seem to have everything. And I didn't check the third tenant, but just in general, just kind of keep in mind that this is not finished rolling out. So who knows what you have right now in your tenant and whether it works or not. So maybe we'll be doing further power hours about this as it matures, most likely, because web part connections have historically been kind of one of my favorite things in SharePoint, doing logic and kind of building solutions without having to write code. So here we go. Now I used this link that I just put in the general channel. I used this to build what I built that I'm showing you right now. And I took a couple of the things a little bit further. And then I'll show you kind of a few things to kind of poke around and things I discovered as I was going. So let me go ahead and get my environment pulled up and my screen share, get the right environment pulled up. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. What do you all think? Who in here has seen these new web part connections and has tried any of this yet? Y'all shout it out in the Power Hour channel there. I really do need to tweet this out. Okay, there's my desktop, and here is my, okay, here's my screen. So I'm going to go create a new page, and I'm going to go to this student site and create a new page and do some of this stuff from scratch, but I've already got some document libraries and some data in here created ahead of time. All right, so I'll go maximize this, create a new page, and it's kind of weird that this menu still stays out here after I create the new page. And then I don't want this big gray box here right now for this demo, so I'm going to change this to plain and go ahead and show you the first thing that we have. So let me move this this little kind of move this little graphic out of the way. Oh, there we go. There we go. I'll make it a little smaller. I don't want it to be in the way of the web part settings. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to add a document library, and I can pick from the document libraries on my site. So I have, this one's just got some spreadsheets in it, and I'm going to go ahead and take this section that I'm in right now and edit it so I can make it 2 columns. So I'll be able to add, that's a little awkward the way this toolbar kind of went across, but this way I'll be able to add something over on the right side. And on this one, I'll put the file viewer. So the trick here is that when I put the file viewer web part on here, you click cancel. Joelle showed me a lot of this yesterday because my tenant didn't have any of this. The tenant I was looking in didn't have a lot of this web part connection stuff. And I was like, Joelle, like, please help me find this because I think I'm going crazy. It's not showing here. So Joelle showed me this little trick because she had already tried a few things. So then the web part, when you're doing web part connections, a lot of what you see and what you'll be doing is going to be in this little ellipsis here. So this is going to be what you'll see in web parts that will allow you to do connections. So with the file viewer, you can connect to source and then you can pick which web part on that page that you're connecting to. And all it does is whichever file that you select, let me go ahead and publish this. Whichever file that you select will show over here on the right. So these are kind of ugly, they're just spreadsheets, but it would be just any files in that library. And also you can notice that this is kind of ugly, the way this document library web part is kind of crammed on here. Well, there is a way that you can tweak the way the document library web part looks. So I'll go ahead and just show you that real quick. That's more of a document library web part thing, but I'll just go straight to the library by clicking See All. And then I can just create and those of you who have done web parts in SharePoint for years, this is not going to be a new thing to you, but I can go ahead and I'm just going to do a new view. So a quick way to edit my view and create a new one is just going to be to do show hide columns, and I can just narrow it down to make it just shorter, just less information. And then I'll do a save view as, and I'll just call it small. And there's also a compact list setting, which makes it even smaller. So we'll just see how both of those apply when we go back over to the web part. All right, so now back over to my web part page, and I just gotta see if I can just hit back a few times. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay, and refresh that. I probably should have put a link to it in the navigation, so I'll go ahead and do that real quick, just so while I'm doing my demo, I can get to it. I love that little shortcut. You don't have to do like 5 or 6 different clicks and have a PhD in SharePoint now to be able to put links to things, to pages in your navigation, right? So, all right, so now that we have my page and we have this library, I'll go ahead and edit this web part again and go to the web part settings. And instead of all documents, I'll show small. And this is a nice thing about this modern document library web part that we didn't have with Classic, is that you can even quickly just switch which library you're showing here instead of having to completely add a brand new one if you want to change it to a different library. And this is also something we didn't have before, is to be able to just type a specific folder name if you only want to show the contents of a specific folder. So I'll go ahead and hide the command bar too. So now this is, see, it's a lot more compact. So I'll go ahead and take a look at that again. So now see, this web part isn't like hogging and it doesn't have a weird scroll bar across it anymore. But one thing that I noticed that's new that they've just changed in the past, I guess probably week or two, in SharePoint lists and libraries, is that now what used to happen when you selected something and then you selected something else, it would automatically deselect that other thing. But now it just keeps selecting things. So that's really awkward when you're trying to do this connected web part. When you want to just quickly flip between this document and this document, you have to actually go unselect the other one. So that just seems to be built-in functionality to the way the selections work in lists and libraries now. There's not really a way to control that. Yeah, but that's how the web part, simple web part connection works with the document library and looking at a specific file. Now, the next thing you probably want to do is something with lists and metadata. So there is a new web part called list properties. And list properties could also be used with a library to be able to see its metadata. So we'll go ahead and do I'll just scroll down and put a list properties one on here. So I've got a company store. So I'm not adding a section, I'm adding a web part. I'll just put my company store here. And this is a lovely depiction of all the products in our company store. And I could do the same thing with this one, is I could make it create a new view that's just got less columns. And I can also, it actually, for a while there, it actually had a customize view button here in like the old school way, but now I don't see that. So maybe they didn't. Yeah, maybe they just removed that. But so you just go to the list and create another view and then use that. Oh yeah, here it is. You have to go here and edit the current view. I'll just do that. All right, I'll just see. I don't want to edit all items. I just want to create another one that's smaller. So that's not really what I want to do. All right. Anyway, let me go back to my web part connections, and I'll just leave it as it is. And go show you this list property. So I'll do the same thing down here with this section. I'll just make it 2 columns so that I can even give it a cool background if I want to delineate this section from the section above it. And then I can add this list properties web part. All right, so then once I have list properties on here, you can immediately see this little ellipsis to connect it to something. And that is going to show me lists that are on this screen, that are on this page. So if you don't see a list in this connect to source, it's just because you haven't added that list as a web part to your page. So I'll go ahead and put my company store here. And then what do I want to just display? The selected items, the only option there. And then it lets me pick which fields that I want to show here. And this is really interesting. So I'm going to do a couple more things here. I'll go ahead and save this. And then I am going to go ahead and create a smaller view of this company store list so that it's not so awkward on the page. So I'll click show hide columns, remove my category photo description, and I'll just put the name and the cost, and then save that as small. All right, and then go back to my web part connections and edit my page. Am I going too fast? Do you all kind of understand what I'm doing? This is one of those things that it's just kind of second nature, editing pages and web part connections and web part settings and things. So I just kind of click through it pretty fast. So you all let me know if you missed something. That's the fun of it being live, right? Also let me know if you have any questions or if you've tried this, if you see this in your tenant or not. Okay, so I'm going to change my view now to the small view and hide the command bar. And that way, see, it's nice, and see that whole toolbar that was at the top? They used to call it the toolbar. And it is not showing anymore. So now I'll go ahead and save my page. I'll show you what happens. So here's my company store. So as I click an item, so now notice my list is pretty small and it doesn't have all those details and the little picture of the item, but it lets me click between them. But again, I have to uncheck the next thing if I want to just show, so I'll just show one thing here. Now look at this, the default is that it lets you edit the web. Watch this, look, I can just change this cost to 20 right here in this list properties. and I just edited the item directly there on the page. What do y'all think of that? I don't know if I'd want, that's kind of scary. So that, especially that's the default, right? So what you can do is change the settings in this web part list properties web part and toggle this, allow users to edit list items to off. So now I've got, now it's not going to let me accidentally directly edit the item. So to me, you'd think that people would easily just accidentally edit stuff if it's so easy. Like all I did was just click a field and start typing. I didn't even click edit or anything. So now when I see this item, I can't accidentally edit it. But I can click the name of it, and this will actually take me to that whole list item over here. Go back. Or not. Let's see. Oh, of course it took me to a new window. Okay, so now you're probably wondering about this photo field that I have, and this is just a regular old SharePoint list, and I'll show you what this field is because this is important for what we're doing next. This photo field is just a hyperlink or picture field. So this is something that's been there in SharePoint for a really long time, and it's just right here. So anytime you create a new column, it's called hyperlink or picture, and you just set it to picture. So that's all that is just a picture column. So then when I'm just creating new items in this company store, you actually just have to put the URL to the photo and enter the display text. So that's kind of a pain because I have my photos just over in a library on this site, and I'll show you where those are too. So you'll know where the photo's coming from. So I think that is going to be in, I actually probably have to go look at the value in that, go look at what the link is. I'll go edit that one. Oh yeah, so it's in my site assets library. So site assets. Paul says if you click the item rather than the item selection box, does it switch items? When you click the item, Paul, that's what took me to a whole new page. When I just clicked the link to open the item, that just took me to a whole completely new page to that specific item in the list. Just like a list and item view. So yeah, that's what that's going to do. And like in the old days in 2010 and 2013 in Classic, you had the ability to do like a pop-up, modal pop-up. Modal pop-up's not a thing anymore. So it's just taking me to a whole new page when I click on that item. So now I've got my site assets. So this is where I actually uploaded, see the blue shirt, bunny slippers, hat, keyboard, mouse, shorts. That's where I actually uploaded all those pictures, and I can just switch this to tiles to see those. So when I was filling out that photo value in the list, I was just putting the direct URL straight to this item. All right, so that's how that company store works. So now that you know that, let's take this to the next level. And there's another thing you can do with web part connections with the embed web part, which is cool. So, and this is directly related to this list happening to have a photo in it. So any list that you have that's got either a URL to a photo or a just like that photo type of field that I just showed you, you could do this. So I'm going to change this to this section to 3 columns, and I'm going to, so now it's 3 columns, and I'm going to go into list properties, and I'm going to remove the photo of the item from the list properties because I'm going to put the photo of the item in a whole separate web part in an embed web part. Okay, so I'll add the web part called embed. Apparently this one's pretty powerful. And then this is the part that's kind of tricky. So in this blog post, the one I put the link to, it actually gives you the code to do this. So in their example, it has just a full, big, long, ugly URL as the image URL. It looks like it's just text. But that's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is a little bit better because mine's actually showing the image in the list. It's using a photo actual column. And then I'm taking this code though that they provide here. So this is iframe code. So I'm taking this and putting it here. So then this little thing in brackets, that needs to be, I need to do my web part connection, and then I need to take whatever the name of the field is that has the photo in it. So in mine, in my company store, the field is just called photo. So I'll connect it to my company store. And then theirs was called image URL. I changed mine to photo, but you'll notice that this doesn't work. And I'll go ahead and just select something just to show you that it doesn't work yet. See, it doesn't do anything yet. So what I realized is that, so there are certain type of more complex fields in SharePoint lists, like choice fields and lookup fields and people fields. And this hyperlink or photo field is one of those more complex fields. So with the more complex fields, you actually have sort of sub values. So I just guessed, and I just hit the dot here, and I typed URL here. I think that's what I did. Let me double check my other page. Let me see. I got this working on my other page. Let me see what I did. It was one of those just fluke things that I just happened to, just kind of playing around with the settings in there, and it worked. Yeah, photo.url. Oh, I didn't put the little, did I put the dollar sign? Let me see. Yeah. Company store, photo.url. Oh, look, I selected two things. Haha. Let me show you my other page. I don't want to waste too much time messing around with that. See? Okay, so this is the exact same thing that I just showed you, but in the exact same list. But see, I put $photo.url, and then now, let me just show you as I'm clicking through this list. I've got the hat selected. It shows me the hat photo. And I select the shirt, and now, so my embed code had a weird kind of some weird dimensions, so I might have to go mess with the dimensions in there, but see, like that. But you can see that as I click things, bunny slippers, it shows the photo over here. So I just have to go play with the dimensions. Any questions so far? Let me see. See if I can, yeah, I'm not sure what I did there. Isn't that weird? Maybe if I just publish it, it'll magically work. No? Huh. But yeah, definitely this, I'll show you where the size stuff was too. You know what? I'm going to take that exact code off the other one, which is the same. It looks exactly the same, but I'm just going to take the other code that I saw on the working page and just copy and paste that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's really odd. Okay, well, SharePoint, it's weird. But that was the .url was the part that gave me that sort of very specific property of it. The other property of these photo and hyperlink fields is .description, and that's going to be the one that has like the actual word of what the item is called in this case. All right, is that it's kind of messy, it's kind of devy, but it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of nice. We didn't really have that kind of thing before. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next example. And the next example is going to also be an embed one, which is going to be, I'll use YouTube. And it's also going to involve those little brackets. So I'll edit my page some more and just scroll down and add another web part. And I'm going to add my list web part. And in this case, I created a SharePoint list called PowerApps. And this is, I just created 3 items in it. But the idea is that each of these has a title, which is just the name of what the power hour was. I just manually put these in just text fields. And then this video thing is that little unique code that each YouTube video has. And so I put those in this web part. And now I'll go ahead and change my section to have 2 columns. And then in this other column, I'm going to do the embed code again. So the embed code is also provided by them in this blog post. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's the YouTube one. So it just says under website address or embed code, you put the YouTube link, and then the /watch ? V equals needs to be the name of the field that you put that unique video ID in. Okay, so I will go and grab that. Okay, so here's my embed code. I need to connect this. I'll go ahead and just connect this to my power hours list. And then I'll put, so this is where I need to put that unique code. So what did I call that field? I called it video. So I got to use the square brackets with a $sign. And look, it actually prompts me. Look at that. As soon as I type the $sign, it actually prompts me and shows me all my fields. So it's kind of got a nice little helpful UI there. So now it's showing me, I selected video, and now I'll go ahead and click one. Look at that, and I'll kind of toggle between these. And so there it's letting me toggle between and showing my YouTube video. So it kind of looks like a playlist looks, right, in YouTube. Pretty cool. What do y'all think so far? You're very quiet today. Okay, so that is, so that's the option with pretty much anything you can think of that has an embed code. What else has an embed code? What can you all think of? Anything you can think of that has an embed code, you could use this embed web part and use those brackets to have a dynamic piece of information coming from your SharePoint list, right? Ooh, okay. So another thing that we can do is the map thing. Stuart says, what about stream? I think you'd either, let's see, does stream, let me look at the stream web part real quick. Either use the stream web part or the embed web part. Let me see if Stream has, yeah, Stream doesn't have the web part connection thing. So here, oops, in my web part connections, I'd probably have to put the embed code for the stream. Ooh, Power BI reports. Oh, that's a good idea. Ooh, that's a really good idea. That is cool. I like that. That's really nice. So for stream, let me see. I've got some stream. Let's see, stream. I'll try that. I'll pull up stream. Got a ton of videos in here. Let me see. Channels, testing 1, 2, 3, no videos. I think I've got one that I put like a zip line in it. Yeah, there we go. That's a cool one. Okay, so I'll click on that. And then I need to get the embed code. Where do I get the embed code from these things? Do you all remember? Share. Oh yeah, there's the direct link and there's the embed. So maybe I just need the direct link. So then this thing right here could be what I would need to have in the SharePoint list would have to be this thing though. So the SharePoint list would have to have this value in a field somewhere, just like I did with the YouTube link. And then this part would be what I could put in the embed web part. Does that make sense? I'll see if we can do this with, I'll try to show you all a couple of other things, and then we'll try out and like poke around with maybe PowerApps or Power BI. Okay, so that was kind of how you could do that with Stream by putting the Stream. Does that answer your question? Oh, Microsoft Forms? Does Microsoft Forms give you an embed code? Ooh. Yeah, so you could toggle from form to form maybe. I wish Forms lets you pass parameters. That would be nice if Microsoft Forms had that. I don't think it has that. But you can quickly just see, like, I'll go to Forms. You could quickly just tell by going to any kind of web part at the top. If you don't see that little ellipsis, then it's not going to give you the ability to do connections. Of course, you might want to look on different types of sites and in different tenants because it seems kind of random right now. So there is another thing that they put in that post about, let's see, connecting web parts, and that is this ability to do a map. But for theirs, they had latitude and longitude in 2 separate fields for their office locations. So what I did was I've got my travel request list, and I went ahead and I'll go, actually I did that on a different site. Let's see, where did I put that one? Sites. I was trying this in all different sites because I was getting different results and different settings available for my web part connections depending on what different sites I was in. So this is a really old sort of classic site, but I've got this nice list in here. This is a list of travel requests. So if y'all seen the new location list column type, so there's a new column type called location. So when you click create column, it says, well, maybe you can only do one per list. That's why it's not showing here anymore. Anyway, it said location. I noticed that existed in one site or one tenant and not another one too. So that's another fairly new thing. So I created a location column here, and I called it place. So when you fill out a travel request, I'll go to Atlanta, visit Joelle, then you can actually start typing a place, and you could just pick, I could just pick Atlanta, or I could just pick the airport, which is a very specific address. So this is just any kind of place or address that you can imagine is going to be populated there. Paul, I'm not sure how to find out when you get it on the tenant. They have the roadmap. It's roadmap.office.com, I believe. That should help you. But if you're not a tenant admin, then you're not necessarily going to know what sort of release ring that you're in. So here's the roadmap stuff. So it's just there are a bajillion things in there. You could just narrow it down to SharePoint to filter it. So let's see, I'll just fill out a few things. Look at trip start after trip in. That's great. And I'm in IT. Okay, so I filled out a new travel request, and I just wanted to show you what that location column looks like. Not sure why it's not saving, whatever. Okay, so this place column is the location. So when I added my location column on this all items view, look at this. So when I go to my view settings, so Paul, you have like what release you're in like some of the global settings to put you in like first release. I don't even remember off the top of my head where that is, but it is a setting where you say like specific people in first release or the whole tenant and stuff like that. So that's the only setting that I know of off the top of my head. If anybody else wants to chime in and help Paul out to figure out where that is, go for it. All right. So when I add this place column, this location column, it actually gives me other, kind of like when you do a lookup field and it gives you the ability to pull in additional columns from that other list. Well, place gives me the ability to have additional columns about that place, like city, state. So all the data is stored in the place column. But if I want to show more of these columns as data as columns in the list, I can display those. So now I've got, see, place coordinates, place country, name, postal code, street. So now I've got all these details about this place. Let me get rid of some of these columns. There we go. Okay. Now so the whole what I'm getting at with this is this web part that the ability to do this embedded map. Now, first of all, in a Power Hour a few weeks ago when we talked about column formatting, there is a way to do column formatting that will show a map. And it shows like a little miniature map, like in the actual column. So I demoed that. It was this special little add-in do you remember that was called Column Formatter or something, Joelle? It was like, let me see.
Yeah, I think that's what it was called.
Yeah, let me see if I have that. It was a special thing that I installed in my tenant. I don't remember which tenant it was in. I'm not gonna, yeah. But it was the column formatter, and it had one of these just settings that you could do that would display a map just right there in a column, just directly in the list. So that's another option for doing a map. But this one is going, I'll show you what this one is going to do. Oh, thanks, Brad. He says it's in the O365 Admin Center, Organization Profile, and then your release preferences. And apparently if you put yourself, not only you put your whole tenant as first release, but if you just put yourself as an individual as first release, you'll actually get it faster if you got it as an individual than you will if it's on the whole tenant. Okay, so here's what I did. I followed their instructions and I put my travel request list here in my, let me kind of narrow this down. I put my travel request list as a list web part here, and I put the list properties to show the item that I'm selecting. But then here's where I kind of left off, where, the end of Power Hour is kind of always where I'm just kind of messing around trying to figure things out. This is the part that I was trying to do by just using the location field and not having to do what they did in the Microsoft post and have two separate fields with latitude and longitude. But I don't think that's going to work, because what I did was I put so here's the code that they provided for embedding a map. So I just pasted that in here. But then here's the part where you need to have your, it asks for the latitude and the longitude. So the URL is actually, I'll show you. So this is kind of tricky. The URL, see, it has this thing is the URL. And you notice that it's got CP equals latitude and then a little tilde and then longitude. So it's two separate things in here. So I don't know the syntax if it will just take CP equals and just put an address, or if like it's address equals or something like that. So either I need to learn a different syntax to use instead of CP, or something where I could just put the address, or I just need to have two separate columns with the latitude and longitude. So let me go back to my web part. So here's what this is cool though. Watch, I typed the little brackets $place in here, and watch when I hit the dot, it actually gives me all these options. So it's got location, source, URI, unique ID of the location, display name, address, and coordinates. So when I was like, ooh, coordinates, that should do it. But then when I click coordinates, it still doesn't do it because it doesn't have that little tilde between the stupid latitude and longitude. So I was going to see if there's a way that I could just do like a calculated, column or something like that, that would have the latitude, and a calculated column that would have the longitude, just something extraneous, because it would be nice to just be able to tap into this existing place column, right? Does that make sense? So if any of you know like the syntax for the embedding of the map, and if you know there's a different way to do other than coordinates, just let me know. See, I found this thing, but this only gives you coordinates. See, see these two little things right here with the latitude and longitude with the tilde in between them. So I need to have something other than coordinates. Okay, so I want to show you another thing that I kind of noticed that looks like is coming in web part connections, but isn't really working yet. Not sure. I kind of poked around and I couldn't really figure out, I couldn't figure out a way to make it work, and there's no documentation on it. Like in Microsoft's little Connect Web Parts post, there's no documentation on this thing. So I'll just kind of show you what I found. I'll create a new page. I've got like 800 pages called test. And then I'll add the list properties web part. And notice this, when I haven't put any other lists on this page yet, I click connect to source, and look what it gives me here. This is page environment. Ooh, I think from what I could tell, this is a dev thing. So the only thing I could find online anywhere about this setting is in GitHub stuff and like developer forums. Does this look familiar to any of you? So it looks really cool, looks pretty exciting. So I can get site properties, apparently, current user information, query string, but I can't actually get it to do anything. So I'll just pick query string, and then I'll just kind of see what happens. So I'll click publish, and I'll just type a query string. See, you would think that it would like at least show my query string value or something here, right? So I think this is not fully baked. just a wild guess. But I'm very excited to see that it's up and coming, that you're potentially going to have the ability to have current user information and maybe pass current user information to other web parts, just like you could with the current user info filter web part, right? So one of the things we used to do with the current user filter web part was something like, if you had a SharePoint list that had like not just a person, so not just where you can create a view and have it filtered to show the logged in user, stuff that has their name in a people field. Not that, but have a different field. Like you have a column in here called department, and you want to, filter this list to look at the currently logged in user department. That's the kind of thing. I've got really old, lot of blog posts about the current user filter web part. So that's the kind of thing that I think you're going to be able to do with that page environment stuff. Pretty exciting. And, but when I put this travel request list web part on the page, it doesn't have a web part connection to be able to do anything, to do a connection. Now watch this. Now look, I already connected this to page environment, but now that I've put a list web part on the page, look at that. The page environment thing is gone from the drop down, and now it gives me the travel request list. So so as you can tell, it's kind of, not really there. Devin says DST should be banned. Oh, daylight savings. That's funny. So Paul, in my other tenant, I didn't see any options to connect to any other web parts. All I saw was that page environment thing, no matter what I did. But Joelle was showing me in her tenant that hers actually gave her a drop-down box and gave her a list of the other list and library web parts on that page. But mine didn't. So then that's when I went to another tenant of mine, and then I did have it. So yeah, I know it's weird. I'll do one more thing, and I'll do instead of a list, I'll do a library, and we'll look at, let's see if I have anything in this one. Yeah, we got a couple of things. In here, we'll look at the metadata of the library. So now I've got, these are company policies. Sorry, this is so big. These are company policies, and when I click a company policy, it's giving me all this data about it and the metadata that I could just go fill in directly on the page like that. While we're in here and while we're looking at that that company store thing, I want to show you something fun just in the last 4 minutes. So I have that company store SharePoint list that I was showing you. Have I showed you all the Power App I created for that one? It's kind of fun. So let's see, it's called store. Yeah, there we go. So I created a Power App that uses that company store list, and it automatically just shows those images just really easily in a gallery, just like you saw in the SharePoint list. Now remember, this is just something that I use for demos, so it's not necessarily a fully working app, but I can go to products, and I see I've got my little navigation at the top. And so here are my products, and I'll go look at bunny slippers. And so I've got you saw the company store list on my SharePoint site. I've got another list called orders, and orders has a lookup to the thing you're ordering, the item in the company store. So I can go say how many things I want to purchase. So I want 2 bunny slippers, and it shows me a total here, and I add it to my cart. And yes, and then I'll go get a hat. I'll get 5 hats and add them to my cart. Yeah. And I'll get a couple more things, some staplers, just get 1. And then, so this is cool. So this is doing a collection in PowerApps. So then I can go to my cart, and there's my whole cart. It hasn't sent this information to SharePoint yet. Once I check out, that's going to patch this whole list of stuff in my collection to SharePoint. So, but it's showing me my total here. But watch this. I change my mind and I want to get 2 staplers. I click a little edit button and I change it to 2 and save it. And notice it updates my total, updates the total down here. Pretty cool, right? And then when I check out bunny slippers, hat, and stapler, that's actually patching it over to SharePoint and creating some list items. So let's see, company store. I think it actually sent me an email just now. So let's see, I think they're going to be at the, yeah, bunny slippers, hat, and stapler. So that's where it adds them to that orders list. Pretty fun. That's fun, right? I'll flip back over here to my main. What do you all think? Pretty exciting that finally we're getting some web parts, right? Web part connections. I still like using PowerApps for those kind of doing those kind of things, but my computer's telling me high CPU usage detected. Anyway, any last questions? Are you all looking forward to using these? Have you all started using PowerApps to do kind of dashboard type of solutions and business solutions like that instead of web parts, like connected web parts like I've done? All right. Well, don't forget to come see me at the SharePoint conference in Las Vegas in May. Here on the screen, you can see my code is Rogers. That's the discount code you can use when you sign up. And I'm teaching a full day workshop on PowerApps and Flow. Is anybody in here going to be at the workshop in person? A couple of you, maybe. If you are, I have a question for you. So if you were to go to, and even if you're not going to be there, if you were to go to the SharePoint conference and go to an all-day PowerApps and Flow workshop, what level of content would you expect that to be? Because last year I did it kind of pretty beginner because they're pretty new products, so I felt like it was introductory just anyway to most people. It's fairly new. But this year I feel like maybe I should make it just all be more advanced. Is that what you would expect? Or do you think that most people going to something like that are new to it and would expect it to just be introducing the products? I'm kind of curious because it's going to be really, because I mean, last year we had, how many, Joelle, did we have in that session? Like 500 people or something?
Yeah, it was pretty large.
Yeah, Joelle was up on stage with me last year. It was like 500 people. So what's the audience in general going to expect as far as the level of the content? So that's the question. I mean, I don't want to alienate the people that are brand new to it, but I don't want to bore you to death if you paid extra to go an extra day to a workshop and learn Power Apps, and it's all stuff you already know, right? So yeah, Larry says he would expect it to be more advanced. So does Shiny. Steve says intermediate to advanced. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Intermediate. It's a good level. Yeah. And Craig says, especially if you went last year, you'd want it to be a higher level. Yeah. So, because Power Apps, I mean, it can get complicated, right? It's like easy mode, and then like jumping off the Power Apps cliff because it's kind of a steep learning curve, right? Yeah. And so as far as yeah. Okay, well, thanks. I appreciate you all's input. I love having this live interaction with you. So, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. Awesome. Next week, Andy Honeycutt. I don't know if you're in here right now, but I met Andy Honeycutt. He's in Power Hour a lot. You might recognize his name. He's an MVP, so I was hanging out with him at MVP Summit last week, and he said he was asking me about this old way, the whole rights masking concept in old school SharePoint, where you could make a button in the ribbon show or hide according to the person's permission level to the item with the rights masking and custom actions. So he said, well, there isn't a similar thing in PowerApps, is there? So I said, well, yeah, I mean, there are some data source ways that you can tap into your SharePoint data source and know what permissions the person has on the current item. So we'll talk about that. I wasn't really sure what to call the Power Hour next week, but that's what we're going to be doing next week. And I'm going to be sure and tell Andy personally to be here to present that. So cool. Thanks everybody for coming. Have a good week and check out our new Power Apps and Flow Live class. You can take just Power Apps or just Flow or both for the whole week. So go to iwmentor.com. Bye. Over and out.
Bye.
Okay, let's see. Got that delay. I keep trying to click on the the broadcast. There it goes.